Let's bring you a quick update on some news that's just coming in. Former liquor baron Vijay Mallya has taken steps, it seems, to remove India from the Formula One team. Vijay Mallya, who is currently being pursued by authorities for unpaid loans related to Kingfisher Airlines, had registered the 6 companies in London on the 31st of May and the 6th of June using the Force One name, according to the listings at the company's house. In fact, the Force India director was the only official named for the 6 businesses. In an earlier interview, in fact, Mallya had even said he was thinking about changing the name to the Silverstone-based team so that there is an international flavour to it and helps attract international players. But is that the real reason, or is there more to it than meets the eye? For more, let's now go across to my colleague Ritangshu Bhattacharya, who joins us live. Ritangshu, an embattled man who is being pursued by several law enforcement agencies here in India, and now this move, many would call it suspicious.
Well, yes, indeed. It's almost official, and the justification for that by Vijay Mallya and his team is that of business. Now, 10 years back, Vijay Mallya bought a Formula One team. That time it was heralded as something that was a breakthrough for India in the world of motorsports. Now, it's also important, Neha, to understand the context then. India was years away from having a Formula One race being hosted in a country. So there was an expectation and excitement being built up. There were 2 Indian Formula One drivers, Narayan Karthikeyan and Karun Chandok, who are no longer in the sport today. So at that time, from a marketing perspective, it made a lot more sense for Vijay Mallya to brand his team as Force India. A lot has changed in the past 10 years. India is no longer on the F1 circuit. Indian drivers are no longer in the F1 circuit, and the Force India team is Indian only in name and in terms of its ownership until Vijay Mallya. So Mallya says that he's not getting any investors from India because nobody wants to be associated with Formula One, because India's romance with Formula One is faded, and nobody wants to be associated particularly with Vijay Mallya, especially from India. All the sponsors which Vijay Mallya is getting, and sponsorship is essential for a team like Force India in Formula One, because it runs on a shoestring budget. All the sponsors which Vijay Mallya is getting are from international companies. So which is why it makes more sense to have an international company come on board a team which does not have a name specific to a particular country. Which is why that's the justification being given by Vijay Mallya, that he is perhaps looking at changing the name of his Formula One team to something which represents a much more global perspective. However, if you look at it emotionally as well, Vijay Mallya, whether you like it or not, was the sole remaining ambassador for India in Formula One, particularly his team, which was named after the country. Now, obviously, it's not a government team. He has every right to change the name of his team. But the fact that he is changing Force India to something more international indicates that Vijay Mallya, for now, wants to have no linkages whatsoever with India, with his homeland, and particularly with the government or any entity which represents India.
That's right, Ritangshu. Many would really wonder if this is a direct fallout of all these legal cases that he is battling currently. We know that an extradition case is currently on. But interestingly, in an interview that Mallya had given earlier, he had said he was thinking about changing the name of his team to the Silverstone-based team so that there is an international flavour to it and it helped attract international buyers. He went on to say there are some people who believe the current name Force India is restrictive psychologically. He had said this is something that he was considering and a decision would be taken in consultation with the other shareholders. Ritangshu, as we wait to get some reactions to this, let me come back to you really so you can, for the benefit of our viewers, really deconstruct this entire business of Formula One and India's association with it all these years, and what a move of this nature is going to eventually mean. Will it mean all, end of all association of India with this sport, at least for now?
Well, yes, indeed. Now, that's just as I told you, Neha, that Mallya believes the name Force India to be restrictive and something which does not, it's essentially a catch-22. He doesn't get Indian sponsors because the team is owned by Mallya, and he doesn't get international sponsors because the team is essentially named.
All right, Ritangshu, thanks for that. We'll come back to you in just a moment. At this point, we're joined on the phone line by former Kingfisher employee Neetu Shukla. Neetu, what do you make of this development? Vijay Mallya, of course, wanted in India in several cases, including related to money laundering. But now the man has decided to remove the term India from his Formula One team, Force India.
I'm really happy he's dropping the pretense of being a patriot, which he was trying to prove during the cricket matches recently, saying that he's going to attend every Indian cricket match that is there. Now, the one team that he had dedicated to India by calling it Force India, he's changed the name. So let India also understand that he's trying to slowly dissociate himself from India, because I guess if he's associated with the term India, then it brings back memories of all what he's done with India, all the cheating that he's done with Indians. So that's the reason I think it makes sense for him to remove the name India from his team, so that his bad past doesn't come and haunt him every time that the word India gets associated with him.
And Neetu, I see the point that you're making, that, you know, it's he's dropping the pretense of being a patriot, something he had done for a long time, as you put it. Also, you know, do you think that he may be doing this because of all the legal cases that have been slapped on him? His claim, though, is that he's doing this to introduce an international flavor and to attract investments in his team, which have not been coming because perhaps some people have had reservations about the fact that this team is associated with India.
I don't know whether it's for that reason, or maybe I am not really very well versed with things, but as far as I can see, there are talks of him having siphoned off funds and put it in the team, in the racing team. So that is exactly what he did with the alcohol company, because there would be claims that would be raised against the alcohol company. He quickly sold off the shares and he took a big chunk of the payoff and he ran away. Probably that's what he's trying to do now. He's trying to dissociate himself and India from the Force India team, so that later if there are claims, then he could fight and say that they're registered with 6 other companies and now we can't claim anything from there.
All right, Neetu Shukla, thanks very much for joining us and sharing your perspective with us. If I could go back to my colleague Ritangshu at this point. Ritangshu, I was quoting to you. All right, I am told we don't have Ritangshu at this point, but we'll try and get you more reactions to that development a bit later on the show.